And welcome back to Fridays Who Would Win, pre-recorded on Thursday, because I am busy playing Pokemon Snap in real time. And this one comes to us from Devil Kruger, and possibly someone else, but I couldn't find it. It was unique enough I didn't think anyone else suggested it. Someone has, let me know, and I'll just remember to cross it out there and put it in the description. Crimson King from the Dark Tower versus the Stephen King universe versus the Living Tribunal from the Marvelverse. Both these guys are near omniscient, near immortal, except for, death in terms of being killed. Excuse me. But ageless, more immortal, completely omniscient being. Like, their power set are pretty much the exact same. Reality warping, illusions, manipulation, energy manipulation, theoretically time travel. I mean, anything they can do, one of them can do better, basically. Now there might be more that is available to them to one than the other. So it's just a matter of who's more powerful. I mean, okay, so the Crimson King is essentially the de facto villain of the Dark Tower series. He is also compared to Satan. He's in theory basically the analog to Satan in the Stephen King universe. He's really only got one superior, and that is, I believe, the individual known as Gain, who's essentially God. God is the only one who's actually stronger than him. It's theorized he's probably stronger than, or at the very minimum, on an equal footing to Pennywise and Maturin the Turtle. But very likely he is actually stronger than them. It's also theorized he might be the same type of being as Pennywise, but that wouldn't really, unless he's just a stronger member of his species. But I don't think that's the case. The reason I say that is we do know the name of Pennywise's species. It's called a Glimmer, a shape-shifting creature of destruction. Whether there are actually more of Pennywise, we don't know. It would seem to be that there seems to be two rationales between Pennywise as a creature. Pennywise is a singular creature. It's just like Maturin is just a singular. There's no extra Maturins out there. It's just Pennywise, or it's just one Maturin. So it would make sense there's just one Pennywise. Or there is a species. Pennywise is a species, or creature is a species, and there are more of Pennywise. You just don't see them. It may be like when one falls, the next one takes its place, kind of thing. But then that would make no sense then if the Crimson King were a member of his species, because why the hell would we let Pennywise basically run around? No, I think the Crimson King is something completely different than Pennywise's species, or pretty much anything else in the Dark Tower series. Because of this, he kind of exists outside. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he exists even outside like the macroverse that Pennywise and Maturin cover. He's kind of like outside that as well, if I'm not mistaken. The Living Tribunal is basically the living embodiment of the Marvel multiverse. He garners over all the multiverse as a whole. If he falls, in essence, the multiverse falls in many regards, starts to crumble. As such, his power is that he can pretty much cancel out a full gemmed Infinity Gauntlet, which has the power to literally do anything in said universe. And because he's a multiversal being, he can be like, no. He can create pretty much anything he wants. And then destroy theoretically anything he wants. Although his powers are not above someone like Galactus, and it's not Galactus. Sorry, his powers are above someone like Galactus to a degree, but they're not beyond someone like the Beyonder or the One Above All. The One Above All is the de facto god of the Marvel universe, who basically can do anything. Who literally cannot be. It's like the true outerversal, like true god. Like nothing stands above the One Above All, because there's no one above that. The Beyonder is a being who is beyond multiversal, who has the power of multiple multiverses, so obviously the Living Tribunal can't take that on. But yes, the question quickly becomes, who would win the fight when they can all basically do the exact same thing the others can? Well, actually, I feel like that's actually a very easy question. Because let's look at the Crimson King's power set real quick. Crimson King from the Dark Tower, Stephen King verse. An unimaginably powerful entity, immortal being whose characteristics mirror both physical realm as well as natural realm nature of the Prim. He is believed to be the same species as it. Some even going as far as to believe it is his son, but this is unofficial. So none of that is official. As they say, it's believed, but I doubt that. His self-assigned polar opposite is the white, the only one strong. And the king is the controller behind the villains such as Atro. Basically, real quick. He has a number of godlike powers such as telepathy, shape-shifting, weather control, mental suggestions, as well as the ability to travel and exist on different levels of the Dark Tower throughout the multiverse. So he, in and of himself, is also a multiversal being. The power is being almost being omnipotent. The Crimson King is implied to be higher, being similar to it in return, but likely being more powerful than them. The only being that is confirmed to be stronger is Gan, known by Abrahamic religions as God. So the Crimson King is able to exist on a multiversal, but he himself, does he have multiversal level of power? Because is he a threat to the actual? Does the multiverse hinge on his existence? And I think that is really where you have to see the comparison between the Living Tribunal and the Crimson King. Is that the Crimson King can exist on on different levels of the Dark Tower throughout the multiverse. But the whole concept of the Dark Tower as itself is a very difficult, not difficult, it's a very unique concept and a little complicated. It's not the same, it's not truly the multiverse in the sense that we think of a multiverse. Because the Dark Tower is basically, the Dark Towers, there's, different multiverse. Like, in the Dark Tower movie, not a great example, but they do say, I'm from Keystone Earth, whereas they're from another Earth, and the other one, and another one, and another one. Keep in mind, the multiverse is pretty much infinite to some degree, or at least non-infinite when it comes to the Marvel Universe. It's not infinite, as far as I know, when it comes to the a Stephen King universe. And even if the Marvel Multiverse isn't infinite, I believe it's even shown to be, because we've seen how many alternate versions of characters there are, and those are just characters we met. There's far more multiverses, planes of existence in Marvel and DC than there are in the Dark Tower. I think you really have to look at this, because this would not be a fight of like, oh, I'm using all my powers. Like, I can't really describe it because they can do anything. But, the Crimson King being more ambitious would probably come to, the Living Tribunal would actually see him as a danger to the balance of things if he tried to come into the Marvel Universe, so he himself would actually step in, most likely. You have to look at their power in the sense of, what do they represent? The Crimson King is the self-assigned leader of the Random, or the Red, as it's put. The Red is otherwise known as the Outer Darkness, the force of evil that is led by the Crimson King. People of Red are aligned together to destroy the beams of Dark Tower, causing the reality and return to the Prim. The fight against the cardinal part is the White. That's great and all, but literally the multiverse is tied. He's the living embodiment of the entire multiverse when it comes to the Living Tribunal, and his power reflects that. I mean, I know I'm probably gonna get people who are fans of the Crimson King, Dark Tower, all that, who get upset at me for this. The Crimson King's power and and the level of power he represents doesn't equate to the Living Tribunals, because the Crimson King is not the embodiment of the Stephen King multiverse. He is multiversal. He can just exist on the different planes of the multiverse. But the Living Tribunal is the embodiment of the multiverse, and thus his power reflects that. So his power, so between the two of them, in terms of how strong they are, and remember, like I said, it's pretty much anything you can do, I can do better scenario. It goes to the Living Tribunal, in my opinion, just due to the fact that it's clear he's on a higher plane of existence and power than the Living Tribunal, than the Crimson King is, due to the fact that he is the embodiment of the multiverse, whereas the Crimson King is just more or less a multiversal being. Now, again, we know that the Living Tribunal is not the de facto end-all, de facto, strongest character in the Marvel series. There are several characters that have superseded him in the Marvel continuity. So don't take it like I'm saying he is the biggest dog he's the meanest dog in the pack. He's the biggest dog in the fight. No, but in this fight, yeah, Living Tribunal, it's honestly, none of their abilities are really that different than like the Infinity Gauntlet's abilities. In terms of level of power, I don't know how much stronger, say, the Crimson King is or isn't than, say, the Infinity Gauntlet. My actual guess is his actual power, like what he can do, doesn't supersede the Infinity Gauntlet, but because he can exist on different multiverses, the Infinity Gauntlet couldn't kill him, at least not entirely. But we know for a fact that the Living Tribunal can just turn off the Infinity Gauntlet if he wants. So right there, that's something the Crimson King I don't think could do. And so it just kind of shows you the difference in their abilities. So, at least in my opinion. So my money goes on the Living Tribunal. Who do you got in this fight, though? Crimson King or Living Tribunal? How do you think that this fight would go down, too, these two meeting up and fighting? Because the only thing I can think of is because he can kind of travel through multiverses, the Crimson King might accidentally wind up in the Marvel Universe, and that's where the Living Tribunal is like, no, I'm the Living Tribunal. Get out of here. Go scoot. No, but don't get me wrong. Because he is a multiversal being, though, I do think he would put up a fight. Like, I don't think he would just immediately go down. But I don't think he would do anything that could actually put down the Living Tribunal, ultimately. But that is just my opinion. What's your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, though. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you folks on Saturday for more Who Would Win and What If. Later, folks.